Hey. I'm sorry, I still like this umbrella in the car.
Well, it rains sometimes.
No, it's so we could make this episode a musical.
You know what?
For this movie.
Nobody wants that.
Not only do I want that, I want it for a movie like this. We're singing about Sicario. So we just got out of Wind River, which is directed by Taylor Sheridan, who wrote Sicario and this and Hell or High Water. Technically not his directorial debut. He directed a movie that I don't remember. I certainly haven't seen. It's a horror film from 2011 called Vile. I haven't seen it. I don't know what that's like, honestly. But in terms of this movie, which stars Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen, and Jeremy Renner, and it takes place on an Indian reservation. And Jeremy Renner is a hunter, and he finds...
Yeah, he works for the Fish and Wildlife Service. Yeah. He's basically predator control.
Yeah,
which is, honestly, like, I've read about those guys. That is a weird and fascinating job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just kind of like, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. And that's what he does. And he finds a body of a young girl who, as it shows, has been raped and murdered, and the only FBI agent who can come out and handle this is Elizabeth Olsen's character, who is basically just by herself to do this because the case hasn't been labeled a homicide. And
so she asks him to help.
Yeah, and it's a solid movie.
Yeah, it is. It's along the same kind of lines in a sense as Hell or High Water, where it's almost a modern day Western.
Yeah.
Not as much as Hell or High Water, but it's almost there. You could really tell in this that Taylor Sheridan really likes Unforgiven.
Unforgiven with a little like
insomnia,
and even with Elizabeth Olsen's character, this very this very, like, she's not terribly experienced, or she hasn't been doing the job for very, very long, so she almost kind of has a bit of a Clarice Starling element to her.
But without the wunderkind kind of thing going on with it.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, a solid movie. It's not... It's good. It's not great.
I wouldn't say it's a great film.
It's very obviously from a first-time director.
Well, I mean, I guess maybe of this kind of...
Of this kind of... Or somebody who doesn't really have the chops yet, you know?
Maybe. I mean, like, I can see why this... Because, yeah, I mean, he directed that movie Vile, but I don't think he wrote that.
No.
And in terms of this, it feels like the kind of thing where it's like, okay, this is a pretty low-key mystery thriller. It is what it is. It's two characters who've come together to solve this mystery. It probably feels like, okay, like, this movie would be better equipped for somebody who, for this writer who maybe doesn't have the experience of say, Sicario or Hell or High Water, which are pretty epic, grand movies. This one almost could even come across like it's like a 100-minute TV pilot, like a pilot movie.
A little bit, but of a higher quality than a lot of those, you know?
Sure.
Like, yeah, you know, the acting in this is definitely on point. Mm-hmm. Down to the supporting actors who are honestly fantastic in it.
Yeah.
Like, even the bit actors are like, oh, you're good. Mm-hmm. All right, yeah.
There's actors who are in this movie that I didn't even know they were in it.
Fucking 70 minutes in, Jon Bernthal shows up.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah. And I was like, okay, it's not that I think he's going to turn out to be the killer, but this scene's not going to end well.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Granted, I never saw any... I never got any trailer for this movie.
No,
that I recall.
When you asked if I wanted to go see it, all I could remember was seeing the poster a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got the poster, and you know many times we're at movies, and
Yeah.
I don't recall getting the trailer for this. They're too busy showing us the trailers for Daddy's Home 2 at every other movie.
This was
we
the
go
only
see.
movie I haven't seen Daddy's Home 2 trailer for in a while.
Oh, here's what I've been getting lately all the goddamn time is Flatliners.
Yeah, that's the new everyday trailer.
Whoever put the trailers in front of this movie, I think thought they were attaching trailers to a horror film. Because we got the trailers for this and it
yeah.
in front of it. Like, okay. Well, I mean, Sicario is pretty scary. So, like, yeah, that was the thinking behind that. The movie is... I was enjoying it. Like, I love seeing Jeremy Renner headline a movie. And... dear God, do I love seeing him not only headline a movie, but headline a pretty damn good one like this.
Yeah.
Especially considering how the last movie I saw him in was a cameo he had in The House. Speaking of actors who I didn't know were in the movie. And he and Elizabeth Olsen are great together, and I liked seeing her in this much darker kind of movie, playing a character that, wow... I haven't seen Elizabeth Olsen play this kind of character.
Honestly, I know Elizabeth Olsen's been in stuff, but I really haven't seen her in anything outside of the Avengers, the Marvel movies. I really haven't. And she's good.
Yeah.
Like she's, she has kind of the problem that some actresses do where it's like, oh, you're actually a really good actress. But you're almost too pretty for this part.
You know
know
what?
what I mean?
I didn't have a problem with that in this film.
I didn't have a problem with it, but it because she did like act well enough that that immediate thought went away. But her first scene in the movie, it was just kind of like,
I see what
okay.
I see what you're saying. I didn't have that problem necessarily here because that is kind of worked into this movie.
Yeah.
That she looks that inexperienced, and it goes along with the fact that she is kind of out of her element in this scenery.
It's like everyone else in this movie is real weathered and like obviously a product of their environment, and she doesn't fit in.
Yeah.
Which that works well. Like and you know, they do a good job of you know, not only is she inexperienced as an FBI agent in general, it's also, you know, no clue about, you know, reservation politics or experiences. But they do that nicely without hammering it into your...
It's not like... It's not a fish out of water movie, really. It's not like, you know, Fleischman and Northern Exposure solving a murder. Like, it's not something... And there was something about it I appreciated, too, in the sense that, like, she's really young and clearly inexperienced, but there's a scene later on where she has a pretty quiet moment with Jeremy Renner where they're talking about his daughter, because he previously lost his daughter, and she's standing there, and you can see that she has some arms on her a little bit. Like, you can see that that was a nice touch, I thought.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen a lot of different movies where they have a young actress in there and they look like they use, like, fucking Battleship with Rihanna as like an officer in that, you know. And in this, I was like, okay, it looks like she's got a little bit of muscle on her.
Yeah, not to say that, you know, beautiful women can do any job.
Well, sure, it's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, but at the same time, it is like when you see someone in a role where they're, you know, in the military or a police officer or law enforcement or something, it's just like, and they're waif skinny. It's like, you'd have watched the fuck out of the academy. Like, you didn't climb the fucking wall. I know you didn't climb the wall.
Want to see footage of that training session?
Yeah. It's like, I don't expect you to be fucking American Ninja Warrior or anything, but, you know, fucking...
I mean, I got my issues with this movie. This movie's pretty short, and it honestly feels it, to me at least.
Running time felt...
Well...
Like, you know, from when the trailer started to the end, until we walked out at the beginning of the end credits, it was exactly 2 hours. So,
it technically... Yeah, it's not like this isn't... It's not 80 minutes or anything.
No, it's an hour
like
45.
It's an hour 45, and
but the pace is good.
No, it's a good
never
pace.
drags, yeah.
It never drags. I was never bored in this. when the reveal happens in this movie, I was sitting there like, before the reveal happens, I was thinking the movie probably still had about 45 or 50 minutes left to it. And then the reveal happens in this pretty sudden flashback that just kind of just shows you what happened. And when that happened, I was like, are we like wrapping things up here? I was kind of expecting a bit more before this reveal comes into it.
I kind of saw that coming because, like, you know, the way the scene is happening, Jeremy Renner's following a trail on his own, and
yeah,
she's with a group of local cops, talking to these guys that are security officers at some kind of facility. And Jeremy Renner's watching them through his binoculars walk towards this trailer. I was like, oh, the shootout's about to happen. And it's established that he's a camouflage sniper. Yeah. Like, so this is coming real quick. Yeah. So I didn't feel like there was a whole hour or anything left in the movie. But when that reveal does happen, it's like, that might be my major gripe in the movie. It was a really good scene, and it was really well acted, and Jon Bernthal was... Yeah. I like Jon Bernthal in just about anything.
I love Jon Bernthal.
And he's a great bad guy. Yeah. And he's a great crazy dude. But at the same time, like, his role in this, well, yes, he does get in a major fist fight. Mm-hmm. Like, the majority of his role and lines they're real soft. Like, he's a good guy.
And he's charismatic as fuck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So when he popped up, I was like, oh, this is cool, and I liked the scene. Mm-hmm. But as soon as the scene was done and it snapped back to the current time frame, part of me was like, that felt unnecessary, if that makes sense. Like, it was a good scene, and it does give you the context of how this girl got where she was, but at the same time, piecing things together, I kind of figured some of it out along the way.
You mentioned something outside the car about what if they made that the prologue of the movie.
Right.
And I can kind of see that, honestly, because how it is here in the movie, again, like I said, I was sitting there, okay, when those guys showed up, yeah, I knew they were the bad guys. Yeah. I knew they were that it was gonna turn out
when you get that many recognizable character actors in uniforms,
and they got cuts on them and stuff like that. It was like I knew that where it was going, or at least they had something to do with it. But I don't know. For some reason in my head, I kind of did think the movie was maybe only halfway over when this happened. I just did for some reason.
No, I understand.
So when that flashback happened, I did kind of have a problem with it too, in the sense that, like, it just did feel like, okay, you're just kind of just showing me what happened, like, and I wasn't really expecting that at this point in the movie. And maybe if it was at the beginning of the film, because it really is just kind of showing you, like you said, what you already knew, basically, kind of, to a point. If that was maybe at the beginning of the movie, it would have added an extra level of intensity to that build-up.
Well, and it does cut momentum there, too. Mm-hmm. You know, it does cut momentum, because instead of something just happening, you know something's about to happen.
Yeah.
Like, and the other thing about that is, like, this movie is a mystery, but it's one of those mysteries where it's not really about the mystery, it's about the path the characters are taking.
It is.
So it is a reveal isn't as important as the characters finding the information out.
No, it's not, because...
So the audience knowing what happened wouldn't have really mattered to me.
No, it wouldn't have, because because like you said, it's not so much a reveal in the sense like, oh my god, it was that guy. Yeah. You know, it's not like Jeremy Renner turns out to be the killer or anything like that. No, exactly. And in a situation like that, yeah, you can get away with, like, what you said, really kind of putting that flashback in any place in the movie, honestly. But yeah, so that was kind of a thing that I had about the movie, and because of that, because it really did feel kind of short to me, even though it's technically not. But because of that, like, and even how the reveal was, that's kind of why I was thinking in my head, like, yeah, I could see this as, like, a Netflix pilot or something like that.
to like a longer like like whodunit kind of like drawn out thing. But it's for everything I'm bitching about now, it's still a solid.
No, it is, and I'm glad. Even though I said that about Netflix, and that was kind of a vibe I got from. I am still glad I saw this in a theater.
Yeah,
because it's a gorgeous movie.
Well, it is, and then like like the choice of backdrop for this thing, not only using the Indian reservation as an interesting backdrop because it adds problems that would seem so much more forced in any other situation, like lack of backup. Lack of resources, and it gives a character like Jeremy Renner's character, who isn't technically an officer of any kind, an opportunity to be part of it. Like if this happened in LA and they're like, this fish and wildlife guy, it's like, why? Why would he be there?
Because he's played by Josh Hartnett, dude.
Exactly.
I'm sure that fucking movie exists too.
Yeah. But yeah. No, and the movie like they picked a beautiful backdrop for it. The cinematography is not great, and using what they had there, like I wish they had the cinematography is not terrible by any means.
No,
but someone who really knows how to work a camera and use the landscape could have made that impressive, because the opening shot they do have of this girl running across the snow in the middle of the night with the mountains in the background, that was a gorgeous shot.
And I loved that sequence there towards the end with Renner and the killer
on the mountaintop.
Yeah.
But I mean, just pulling back a little bit more or something, like getting the scope of that in a little bit more would have been so much cooler, because like you understand they're out in the open, but at the same time, like I've been to fucking Wyoming. There's no one there.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful white desert. It's fucking desolate, and you don't really get that scope of feeling that you get if you're in a state like Wyoming and just standing on the side of the fucking road. You can look and just go, oh shit, there ain't nothing around for miles.
Yeah, and it is still a good. It's like I said, it's why I'm glad. It's part of why I'm glad I saw it in a theater, because it still does have some good scenery in it. Granted, a movie like Hell or High Water, that felt like just a big fucking epic on screen.
And that's the thing. It's like Hell or High Water felt like a big epic, but it was really kind of a small story.
No, it was.
And that was a lot to do with how it was filmed and the cinematography.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
And this movie could have had that feeling, but didn't.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I had some other problems with, I don't know if it was a directorial choice or the cinematographer, I felt got a little lazy at points where it's like, listen, I'm okay with handheld when it suits the movie or suits the scene. But when you're inside having a two-person quiet conversation and you're still focused in doing the fucking, crossover, like, two-person conversation, and the camera's going like this, it's fucking distracting. It's fucking distracting.
I have to be careful about how I talk to this, because I think like every movie I've directed is handheld. But I noticed it in this movie too.
But every movie you've directed is completely handheld.
Exactly.
Not where it's like, oh, this is a beautiful crane shot, and then you have a two-person conversation where it's jumping around, like that was why it was jarring.
Yeah, I try to be consistent with my with mine. Plus, yes, my movies don't quite have the epic feeling to them as a movie from the writer of Hell or High Water. Like, but I noticed that in this movie too. I did. When it's one of the scenes where Renner and Elizabeth Olsen is inside, I was noticing that. Yeah. It was just a thought in my head, like, has this whole movie been looking like this, or am I just now noticing this?
It was just a couple scenes. And that's why it was so noticeable. And also at the end, when the bad guy's running away through the woods, it's like, all right, I understand that you're trying to give a sense of urgency and movement, but shaky cam's not necessary here either.
I was fine with that.
But there's other techniques they could have used that would have been
Sure.
so much better. Like quick cuts, clean movement. Like you're surrounded by trees. Like you can give that sense of urgency easily without shaking the fucking camera. You know?
I didn't notice it so much in that scene. Maybe because I'm still a little nauseous from seeing Jason Bourne last year.
Yeah.
So
Fucking
this-
grass.
this action scene was frozen in place compared to that.
Yeah.
Shit. But no, in those scenes you were talking about where it did kind of switch to that, and it was a
floating
little.
a little too much. You know?
Yeah, I was noticing that.
It was just slightly too much.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like, oh, it's handheld and it's wiggling a little. It was bobbing.
Yeah.
It was just like,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be a still shot. Fucking stop.
Overall, I recommend the movie. It's never boring.
I do too. It's well acted.
Yeah, it's well acted. It's got some pretty intense scenes in it. I love Sicario. I love Hell or High Water. This one I really dug the hell out of. I don't love it as much as those other two movies, but it is a solid sit.
Yeah.
And it's well made. I do recommend seeing it in the theater. Yeah, it's
Compared to a lot of what's playing, yeah, definitely. I mean,
sure. I mean, Irving and I were at Brigsby Bear last night, which we both fucking loved. I enjoyed that better than I liked this, but this is, if you choose that or you choose this, you're still getting a pretty damn good movie for the night.
And it's like, do you want to watch a drama or a comedy kind of thing?
Well, at Brigsby Bear, you get a little bit of both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although in Brigsby Bear, it never turns out the bear raped and murdered someone. Another movie I'm sure exists. Any other final thoughts about this?
No, it's a solid sit. It is not without its flaws, but the flaws I think are worth mentioning in the context of what we do. I think they're
agree.
ultimately very forgivable, and I once again I can't wait to see what this guy does next.
Same here.
You know?
Same here. And maybe I should go watch Vile.
He didn't write it though.
Yeah, I know he didn't write that. I looked at the box cover. I was like, that just looks like a me and Brian movie.
Yeah, I have a feeling he's gonna be like, it's like he's gonna be one of those guys that's gonna end up writing and directing and doing both, but he's gonna be the dude that's like, I like it better when you just write movies. It's kind of like he could be the next Paul Schrader for me, where it's like, I like the movies you direct, Paul Schrader,
Hardcore, fuck yeah.
but I prefer the movies you just write.
I love American Gigolo.
Oh yeah,
American Gigolo, Hardcore. Yeah, he is one of these. He's primarily known as a screenwriter.
and he's directed
definitely.
a couple solid movies.
Fuck yeah.
But he's one of those guys that, like, a movie he writes directed by someone else is usually a little better.
Typically. I mean, at least more consistently good. The last thing I saw him direct was that Nick Cage Dying of the Light. Is that what it was called? It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad, but it was one that had, like, that got...
Didn't he do, what was it, The Canyons?
Did he do that?
Or was that... Who was that?
God, before...
It was somebody whose work I'm usually like, yeah, and then it's like, Lindsay Lohan, huh?
Oh, the Bret Easton Ella. Oh, I don't know if I ever saw... I don't think I ever saw
I
that.
think that was I could very well be wrong about this without looking it up, but I think that was a Paul Schrader movie.
I don't know. I'll watch that after Vile. Yeah. I'll look that up on it in a sec. All right. See it. Okay, so yeah, he did direct The Canyons. Yeah, like, I just never did see this. I just never heard much good things about it, and Bret Easton Ellis is my favorite author, so that's part of why I was sort of like, I don't want to be disappointed. And yeah, Schrader did do Autofocus. That was a great movie.
See, that's the thing. He's done some great movies, but I don't know that he wrote Autofocus. Let me look it up. I'm looking at... No, he did not.
Looks like we've traveled back to the first year we started doing midnight screenings because I'm holding the
Handheld.
camera up. Yeah. I hate the handheld in this movie.
Wait, let's talk to the person in the back seat.
Oh, yeah, what'd you think? Battleship sucked. Yeah, right? Say it.